was involved in the 24/7 Sports National Experts. Can you believe that label they choose to put on me? National Experts, and we did the post-spring top 25, which is available right now on the front page of 247sports.com. And so I wanted to go through this because I had some differences of opinion, at least when it came to what the collective opinion was on the top 25. Alabama at the top, that's not a shocker. Oklahoma, I think, number 2, maybe if you have been tuned out, maybe a little bit of a surprise. But I agree with our national guys, and this is kind of the average of how we all voted. Oklahoma sitting there at number 2, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, 3, 4, 5. I think I had Georgia and Clemson flip. No big deal there. My Iowa State Cyclones at number 6. Now the question is our head pressed against the ceiling, or can we break through that ceiling? And can Matt Campbell lead us to the promised land this year? And by us, I just mean the team. No affiliation, of course. North Carolina just creeping around there inside the top 10. A&M, Oregon, Notre Dame rounds out the top 10. So, again, I think Jesse has a graphic, so he can just roll through them here. But I wanted to point some things out. Again, these were released today, just a few hours ago. So if you want to read it in very, very slow motion in your own speed, you can go to 247sports.com. Florida was number 12, at least when it came to the cumulative. I had Florida at number 10. Now, I can readily admit to you they may be a little high there. I just want to know this. Wherever you rank Florida, you can do your own poll. Are we remembering the end of the 2020 season, or do we just honestly believe this is what Florida is going to be in the 2021 season, or at least this is where they start? And I was willing to give them a little bit of benefit of doubt. A lot of that just has to do with cumulative talent on a roster. So I've got them at 10, whereas we collectively have them at 12. Oregon, I got a little bit different story on Oregon too. I had Oregon down at 11. We had them as a group inside the top 10. Same deal here. It's not there's a big difference. I really want to hear more about Anthony Brown at quarterback entering the summer months and their offensive line. It's a mild concern for me. Probably the biggest one on that team would be offensive line. So again, just kind of a minor difference there. But how about we agree? My own poll and our collective poll has LSU at 13. Boy, that's a lot of trust. That's a lot of stock put into the realization and validation of players, because they got a lot of players on their talent roster, both sides, and they got a lot of guys where you look at, I've said this several times about LSU, you look at the names, including the quarterback room, and you say, how are they going to be terrible with all these names again this year? Well, the short answer is I don't think they're going to be terrible. I think they certainly warrant a top 15 consideration. But again, it's a lot of trust to put into, I don't know how you say what I'm about to say, an unproven commodity. A head coach can't be unproven if he's won a title within the last 24 months. So I'll just say this version of LSU is unproven. Let me put it like that. Southern Cal, I had lower by 3 spots than our national team did. They had them 14, I had them 17. No individual spot. I just don't think as highly of USC at the moment. But there was one I had ranked all the way up at 21 that our national team did not rank at all, and that's Kentucky. I am significantly higher on Kentucky being a top 25 caliber program entering 2021. But again, there are still a lot of moving parts to play out with the Cats, not to mention the quarterback position being most among them. Will Levis, if he were to start for them, he's not even on campus yet. He hasn't even come in yet. And so I had some back and forth with some folks the other day thinking a guy like Gatewood maybe is better than Will Levis, better suited to take over. I'm just telling you, you get a new offense in there, you don't get to see the spring game. I don't really know that there are many definitives for Kentucky football. I just know, as a whole, I really like where they are. I like where they are now as much as I've ever liked where they've been under Mark Stoops. And again, I'm not telling you they're top 10. Okay, it's a little bit different. That window to be ranked inside the top 25, I mean, this is where the Coastal Carolinas of the world were able to hang out and rise above and beyond last year. Speaking of Coastal, they had them ranked, and I didn't. But I did have Louisiana ranked. Napier at Louisiana and Luke Fickell, with Cincinnati being ranked way higher in this. Think about where they are this year, because a lot of stock's been placed in their programs and their names, and they are sky high right now on everyone's hot board. They could long since have had major Power 5 jobs, but they've got jobs that are better than a lot of Power 5 jobs, even I'll tell you that. I wonder, when we get to the end of this year, will both of their stocks be equal to or higher than they are right now? Or could one, or maybe both, but could one of them go the Jeff Brom route? Now, Brom he is at Purdue, so it's not a G5, but it's still kind of the same thing. Brom's name was very hot. It was on everyone's radar, and then a season and 2 seasons happened, and the production didn't get duplicated, and so now his name kind of fell back a little bit. So keep an eye on that. Washington at, according to our collection, number 23. Washington at 23 feels probably about as sneaky as any team in this thing. I was watching Brad Powers the other day on Twitter talk about this, and he made some good points. If there weren't so many questions from like the head coach and quarterback spots at Washington, this would be the year for the Huskies. Maybe it still will be. Question doesn't mean a bad thing if it gets answered in the positive. They do not play Utah, nor do they play Southern Cal from the South. They play, I think, Oregon and Arizona State at home. They got Michigan for an out of conference, and they go there to play Michigan, I believe. But that's set up really well for Jimmy Lake and company. Michigan not ranked. Penn State, meanwhile, ranked in the 19 to 20 range by us right now collectively, and that's just something to keep an eye on. I think a lot of people in the Big Ten view those programs as being comparable. Both had very down years last year, both overhauling portions offensively this year. Neither one really thinks they have every question answered at quarterback, even though Sean Clifford is a multi-year starter at this point. But we'll see. That game doesn't happen until later in November. We'll see. Louisiana at Texas in week 1. Boy, won't that be fun. That was close. It almost went down the wrong pipe, Colin. Penn State plays Wisconsin in week 1. Clemson obviously plays Georgia in week 1. And then there are 2 games within the span of the first 2 weeks from teams that are ranked in the 10 to 15 range against teams that are ranked in the top 5. Miami plays Bama week 1. Is it competitive? Of course, an upset would shock the world. Is it competitive, or is it one of those situations where Miami gets broken mentally and they don't recover until week 7? Bookmark that. We'll talk about it later. Oregon in week 2 goes to Ohio State. Probably going to be at that one. That is the same deal. This game was supposed to happen in Eugene last year. Had to get canceled. So there are a lot of things to look at here. This is certainly not my final poll, nor is it our final poll. When we get to the regular season, we'll raise the curtain on the JP poll. And the JP poll, no limits, no holds barred. We go anywhere and everywhere with that one. It's much more of an odds maker power rating style poll. You don't just win and move up or lose and move down in that one.